games that I play have a fan base that are completely different from me, that kind of alienate me in a way. And this is the thing, this is another topic that I want to talk about. Being alienated by fan bases. And I've started to notice that more and more in recent years. And I feel like a lot of fan bases in games are just alienating for me. And it can actually hinder the experience, and it can actually put me out of the mood to play a video game just simply because of how alienating a community is. And I want to bring up like an example of this, but not really an example personally, but like I want to bring up some stereotypes that I've noticed about the gaming community within a specific genre, because I mean, every genre is different, but this is the thing, whenever I go to these communities of specific genres and engage with people who are into specific genres of games that I like, for example, JRPGs and 3D beat-em-ups, like, I notice a lot of things about these people that is really interesting, but also kind of alienating. Now, I want to talk about 3D beat-em-ups first, because this one is true for a lot of games, and the thing I noticed about 3D beat-em-up fans is two types, and really, I'm not even going to talk about the genre here, because 3D beat-em-ups cover a lot of things, a lot of genres, a lot of sub-genres in between, a lot of different kind of games in between, you could say. I'm not going to bring up sub-genres, but I'm going to talk about two different communities that pretty much sum up my points here, and that's the character action game community. Notice that I rarely ever use the term character action game because I think it's dumb, and I think people that use it are elitist as fuck, and that they shouldn't use it because it's such a stupid term. Character action game. Fucking dumb genre. Like, who the fuck came up with that? Like, there's nothing more pretentious than character action game. It's so fucking pretentious of a term. I just can't understand why anyone would use it. It's a 3D beat-em-up that just happens to be considered more technical and challenging. And this is the thing. The character action game community, their primary focus on a video game and what the stereotypical rewarding element these people seek out is mastery. And there's people in the community, you know who you are, and you will agree with me on this, and you are one of these people. I know that some of you are going to be one of these people. I know there's going to be one person watching this video who is one of these people and will admit it. And you should admit it, because it's true. You seek out mastery, you play games for the challenge, you play games to learn and educate and to experience that feeling of getting better at video games and learning the mechanics, and you get thrill from that. You get thrills from that of getting better and improvement at a video game, and you know, like beating games and like getting fulfillment from that, from being good at them and getting good at them, you know, and sometimes even losing at video games, and like that feeling of finally overcoming a tough adversary. That's what mastery is all about. Now, if you watch my rewarding elements video, you'll know that mastery is at the bottom for me. It's the one that I prioritize the least. Do I feel mastery to some extent? A little bit, but not as much as other people. And this comes back to nuance again. It's like, when I play F-Zero GX, does it feel fulfilling to beat Diamond Cup on Masterclass? Absolutely. But does it feel fulfilling enough for me to care that much? Not really. Like, the thrill disappears after like 5 minutes, and I'm like, okay, let's just move on with life, you know? It's just like, it's not really that thrilling for me. I don't really get like major happiness and joy out of it. For me, it's all about the journey, not about the result when I play a game like F-Zero GX. But the thing about it is that the results do matter to some degree to me, and that's the thing. Whereas, in general in life, I am very much a results-driven person. I like to get the results, particularly when it comes to YouTube content creation. So, like, it's kind of weird, but with F-Zero GX, it's all about how the game feels. It's all about the feel of playing the game, and that's kinetic empowerment, people. That's what it is. It's the feel of just playing the game. That's what kinetic empowerment is, and that's what F-Zero GX does phenomenally. That's why it's one of the best games ever made, because it is probably the best game for kinetic empowerment ever made. No joke. In my opinion, it might as well be, because it does it so damn well that it just deserves the moniker of being like a kinetically empowering experience. And kinetic empowerment is something I do enjoy. It might not be at the top for me, but it's something that I do enjoy, and it's something that I look for in a 3D beat 'em up. So when I review a 3D beat 'em up or look at a 3D beat 'em up, I look at it differently from most people who look for mastery and like deep mechanics and technicality. I look for, how does this feel? How does this game feel, and how do all of the little individual components combine to make this game feel good and present itself well? And there's a lot of things that go into kinetic empowerment, and that's what makes it interesting. But does this game make me feel like a bad motherfucker? I think that's the most simple way to kind of like explain it, really. Oh, I got a pity prize from the game for sucking. Wonderful. Save game data? No, I don't give a shit. But this kind of sums it up. This sums up how little I give a shit about mastery. It's just like, I just did shit to the game. I failed numerous times on easy mode. I'm just like, whatever. You know, I don't give a shit. Just get through it. Blah, 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 blah. Skip all of it. Press X to win. New car. Yeah, we get it. We get it. Back to select game mode. Where's the design? Oh, yeah. Right. Back to Grand Prix. Oh, we got the... Oh, yeah, let's... Okay, let's just... Heroic GP, yeah. Let's just go. Right, so yeah. As I say, like, the stereotypes. Let's just get straight to it and just talk about these stereotypes. Because I think it's going to be an interesting thing to say. But yeah, like I say, mastery is not something that I particularly go for in video games. As you can see from playing this game, I'm doing shit at it. Don't really give a shit. I don't care about learning this game. I will never learn the mechanics of this game. I will never get good at Ridge Racer. And that's another thing. A lot of people like to throw the term "get good at" people as if that means something, as if that's like criticism that people can learn from. No, they can't learn from it. It's just trolling. Anyone who says "get good" is trolling and just being annoying and unproductive, and it's not even being smart. It's a word. It's a phrase that idiots say that just makes them like just so that they can just be a dickhead, and it's just like, really, you should stop using that word. You should stop using that phrase. It's just annoying, and it just makes you look like a twat. Like, I know that I can be a bit of a twat sometimes, but you know, I'd rather not go out of my way to be a twat if I could. And you should do that as well. So stop being dickheads and stop being like that. You know, there's no reason to do that. There's no reason to upset people if you can avoid upsetting people. I mean, I know that people love me to do rant videos, but I know that me doing rant videos upsets people, which is why I don't always like doing it. But I end up upsetting people all the time. I'm kind of used to it, but I don't want to go out of my way to upset people. Don't misunderstand my intentions. My intention is just to be honest and to just rant and ventilate. That's it. I don't go out of my way to upset people, so you shouldn't either. Anyways, yeah, it does upset people because it's kind of basically just basically talking trash and saying that you're shit at video games, and you know, nobody likes that, especially when they've played video games for a long time. They do have a little bit of an ego, and a lot of it has, but they just don't have the patience, you know. Some people are more patient than others and can handle bullshit better than others, and a lot of it comes down to whether or not they like mastery or not, you know. I don't give a shit about mastery, so I don't invest in that sort of thing. I don't invest in getting good at games, I invest in experiencing a lot of different games. Although sometimes I do invest more time into playing a single game if I enjoy it, but that's very rare. But regardless, that's how a lot of people are like, and you'll see people bring up games like DMC, Ninja Gaiden, and all of that lot. And the thing is, Devil May Cry 3 is a fun game, I enjoy it. Ninja Gaiden 2 even, despite it being really frustrating in parts, is also a really fun game, and I have had some pleasure playing it. It does have a bit of kinetic empowerment in there. Ooh, shit. It does have a bit of kinetic empowerment in there that brings about some thrill. But the thing about it is the community for these games, they don't give a shit about that. They just want to be, like, for them it's not about that. For them it's all about being good at video games and mastery and just being the best at video games and just, like, learning the game, and, like, they just want the game to be as hard as possible. So the Ninja Gaiden community will look down on people who play on difficulty levels like Ninja Dog, and the game itself will look down on you by taking the piss out of you because you picked a difficulty that is lower than what the average player is supposed to pick. So the game will mock you for it. When in actual fact, picking easy mode like I'm doing right here is actually smart. And this is something I want to bring up as well. Picking easy mode is smart, and smart people pick easy mode. Idiots and people with more ego than brain power pick hard mode first. If you pick hard mode first, then you're not smart, you're not cool, you're just an idiot. Because you're basically making out that you know the game like well enough that you can just play hard mode straight off the bat. And that's just basically that's just arrogance. Like if you're new to a game and you're starting for the first time, really like easy mode is where you should be going to. Like honestly, like I mean really it should be normal, but as we all know there's certain games where normal mode is just not fun. And I'm looking at you fucking Capcom with your fucking 3D beat'em-ups with fucking hard normal modes, fucking Devil Kings, Chaos Legion, Devil May Cry. Yeah, I'm looking at you guys. But yeah, like because of them, yeah, you have to pick easy mode, but then they fucking lock easy mode behind normal, so you have to suffer through normal to unlock easy mode, and by the time that easy mode's unlocked and mock you for it, you want to sell the game because you're pissed off because the game insulted you. When in reality, if you could just pick easy mode from the start, you'd probably like the game more and you wouldn't be selling it, and you wouldn't be stopping playing the game. You'd keep playing the game because you'd start to get an appreciation, because now you have the opportunity to actually learn the mechanics without getting bummed every 5 seconds by tough enemies. And when you learn the mechanics, instead of constantly getting bummed because you can actually experiment more freely without risking death, now you understand the game, now you get the game, so you can just skip normal entirely and go for hard mode. You can go hard immediately. That's the smart person's way of playing video games. Start on easy mode, experiment a bit, learn the skills, then go hard. That's how people should play video games. But unfortunately, because we all have egos and we all have this gamer pride, we all pick normal. And some people foolishly pick hard mode, and then they get pissed off at the game because they pick hard mode, and then they blame the game for everything and then say it's shit. And which I kind of get. Like, we've all been there, people. I think we all have. And then you have the normal guys who pick normal mode, that they just think, well, it's normal, it can't be possibly that bad, and then they play a Capcom game like fucking Chaos Legion and Devil Kings and they get bodied, and then they're like, this isn't fair, like this isn't normal mode, this is hard as fuck. And then some people, that smart ass is like, well, I didn't think it was hard, I thought it was easy, I think it was pathetically easy, you just suck at video games. And yeah, that's another thing that you get, like this, that's the character action community in a nutshell, you know? The get good sort of people, and that's why I feel alienated by the character action community completely. Like, they just alienate me. And it's sad, really, because I like a lot of the games, but I just hate the people that enjoy those games, and it's just like, you know, why do we have to have this mentality? Why can't we just enjoy the games, you know? It's like, that's why I like games like Onimusha, because you don't really see many people talk about Onimusha that much, but when people talk about games a lot, that's usually the crowd that talks about them the most. You know, the loudest crowds in the 3D beat'em up genre are the people that are all get good people, unfortunately, and that sucks. You know. So yeah, that's the beat'em up crowd, but well, that's the character action crowd. But then you've got the Muso crowd, because there isn't a beat'em up crowd, so to speak. Like there aren't like middle of the road like games like Onimusha and like Genji and like Beat Down Fists of Vengeance and all of that, like, where, you know, like, it's not like a mainstream game that no one talks about, and, like, they don't have the flexibility of, like, DMC, but they're fun in their own right. Like, you don't really hear many people talk about those games anyways, and it's just kind of like, people just don't really bring them up often. But, I do like those games as well, but, the other vocal community is the Muso community. People who play Dynasty Warriors and stuff. And they're actually kind of interesting because the stereotype of the Muso community might actually shock you. Because, and it definitely shocked me, like I thought it was going to be kinetic empowerment, but it's not. It's not. The stereotype for the Muso community, or like, you know, I mean, Warriors Games and Basara and Demon Chaos, and I guess we're going to count like Drakengard, 99 Nights, and all of these other games, you know. Mystic Heroes, or, you know, all those types of games. That's what I'm talking about. You know, like, the stereotype for those people is invested empowerment. Yeah, invested empowerment. That's what people play those games for. They don't care about mastery at all. I mean, yeah, there's those people that will play on the hardest difficulty and like the harder Musou games, but they don't usually judge people for it. They don't usually say get good for it. They just enjoy suffering, apparently, for games like Dynasty Warriors 3, good for them. But they'll never shit on you for being bad at the game. That's one thing I'll give the Musou community. They'll never trash on you. They're a lot nicer than the character action game community, and a lot less elitist and a lot more welcoming. So I actually don't mind the Musou community as much. But I do still feel alienated, because invested empowerment usually means that they are focused around completionism and stuff, and like they will play these games for ages and ages and ages and ages. Like, they will get every achievement, they will get every ultimate weapon for every character, and they will get like all the best, like they'll get everyone maxed out in everything, and do every single stage, and do all of the extra content and the DLC content, and unlock all of the costumes, and like they unlock everything. They are completionists, serious completionists, and they will play video games like every single Musou, every single version of a single Musou, and max out all the fucking achievements on said Musou because they're insane. And you will never see me do that. But for those people that do that and enjoy that, more power to you. I'm not going to do that. And this ties into the video that I talked about of why I play Musou games, and I brought this up before, and it's definitely a stereotype that I wanted to bring up immediately, and that's why I brought it up in that video. And I'm bringing it up here as well because it's true. Like, it is true. I mean, people do that, and that's kind of interesting because you would expect role-playing games to be like that. You would expect the JRPG community to be those guys, but it's actually not the case. Because the JRPG community stereotype is actually narrative. That's the rewarding element they go for. Narrative. And this is where things get even more interesting, because the JRPG community, if the game can have a fantastic combat system and can be really fun to play and really experimental and really unique. But if it's got a shit story, no one cares. For example, Shadow Hearts from the New World. Best combat system in the series. I don't care what anyone has to say, and I know people are going to say, oh, but Shadow Hearts Covenant's combat system is better. I mean, I'm not going to say that Covenant's combat is shit. It's not. It's good. It's very good, and I do like Covenant's combat system, but the thing about it is that Shadow Hearts from the New World added a lot more depth to the system. Like, for example, the combos in Covenant. In Covenant, you didn't really have to think much about combos. In From the New World, you do, because now you have to deal with attacks that can only hit enemies that are airborne or enemies on the ground. And this makes things more interesting because you can't just spam the same moves. You have to actually think before you pick a certain move, and you have to plan things out, and you have to be aware of different things, and like also like how you set up skills and how you use the stock is such a big deal when it comes to playing the game, because if you don't utilize the mechanics well, you can screw yourself and you can run out of sanity points and then you're done, you know. And it's just so fucking good, and people don't appreciate how good that combat system is. It really is amazing, and the same goes for Grandia 3. Like, I love Grandia 2 as much as the next guy. Like, it's my third favourite game of all time, as you all know if you watch my top 10 favourite games of all time list. Like, fucking Grandia 2 is my spirit animal. Like, Grandia 2 is one of my many religions. I fucking adore that game, and you know, it's one of my favourite games of all time, and as one of my probably my favourite protagonist in a video game ever. Then you have Grandia 3, which the plot of Grandia 3 is basically the opposite of Grandia 2. Like, the protagonist is a fucking lame, fucking typical fucking, like, he's just basically the typical fucking love-struck protagonist or whatever the fucking, just like, I just don't relate to Yuki at all, but I relate to Ryudo a lot. Like, Yuki is like the opposite of Ryudo. He's a fucking hopeless romantic guy and whatever, like, whereas Ryudo is just like he's not like that, and he's not goody-goody like fucking Yuki is, and it's just like, yeah, this isn't really a story for me as Grandia 3, but you know what? I still like Grandia 3. But a lot of people don't because they discredit it just simply because the story isn't as interesting as Grandia 2, which I think is kind of unfair. I mean, Grandia 2 is the masterpiece of the game as far as I'm concerned. But let's be honest here, Grandia 2's combat, at least for me, if you played a JRPG before and you learn mechanics quickly, you can pretty much master Grandia 2 with ease because, like, it's a very easy game. There's not really much challenge in it. I'm not saying that to knock it because, as you know, I'm not big into mastery, but mechanically speaking, it's not as strong as Grandia 3's combat. Grandia 3 adds a lot more to the combat system that makes it more interesting and better. And that's not to knock Grandia 2's combat system. I still think it's enjoyable, even if it is easy. You know, as you all know, I don't care. I'm not a mastery-driven guy, but you know, so I still think Grandia 2's combat is still brilliant. But I think Grandia 3's combat is overlooked, and I think it deserves more attention because it's really amazing how they transformed Grandia 2's promising system into something that is truly amazing. And if you really combine the two, like, it would be really, like, it would be amazing, like, if you combine Grandia 2's story with Grandia 3's combat, because Grandia 3's combat is genuinely really good. But because the story was shit, everyone discredits the game completely. Like, they disregard it as just being a shit game. Whereas Grandia 2 is well loved by a lot of people, and rightfully so, because it's amazing. I mean, I do get it. Like, when you get a game like Grandia 2 and Shadow Hearts Covenant, which have amazing storylines and still have fun combat systems, like, and your game doesn't have an amazing storyline but still has an amazing combat system, it's like, when you're missing one part of what made a previous game great, I think people just feel a bit disheartened from that because they expected it to be like the total package like the previous game, but it was only half of it. And yeah, like, I kind of get that, but at the same time, you've got to look at games like standalone entities, and as a standalone game, Grandia 3 is actually not a bad game at all. It's just not a great follow-up to Grandia 2. Same goes for Shadow Hearts 3. Like, great game on its own, but is it a great follow-up to Shadow Hearts Covenant and Shadow Hearts? Absolutely not. Shadow Hearts and Shadow Hearts Covenant, amazing games, like fucking fantastic games that are very hard to live up to, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone to have to fucking live up to that game. Same goes for Valve Profile 3 if it ever gets made. Like, could you imagine, like, I mean, I will be critical of it, but I, at the same time, I'll also say, well, it had a lot to live up to because Valve Profile 3 is the sequel to Valve Profile 2, and Valve Profile 2 is the greatest game ever made. But we got Valkyrie Elysium, and I enjoyed tearing that game apart because they didn't even try with that piece of shit. Like, but Valve Profile Covenant and the Plume, on the other hand, which is the closest thing to a real Valve Profile 3 will ever get, that's a different ballgame. Because I actually have a lot of... Like, I actually love that game a lot. Even though it's nowhere near as good as Valve Profile 2 in my opinion, it's still an amazing game, and I still fucking adore Covenant of the Plume, and it's still a game that I absolutely highly rate and would recommend to people. I love that game. Just not as much as Valve Profile 2, because Valve Profile 2 is particularly a masterpiece, but I still love Valve Profile Covenant of the Plume. I still love that game.